Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Nick Talks, and with another movie review about Murder on the Orient Express. So, if you're unfamiliar with this movie, it follows a genius detective Poirot as he attempts to take a break from his crime-solving detective job, and after a change in his travel plans and a run-in with his old friend Book, a wealthy bad boy who sort of runs the Orient Express, Poirot finds himself on board the train with a whole bunch of strangers. One lightning strike and avalanche later, and the train gets stuck in the mountain just before their tunnel they're supposed to go through. And before too long, you guessed it,
A passenger has died on the train.
there is a murder on the Orient Express. Now, I had quite a few issues with this movie, especially since I watched the 90s show with David Suchet, I think his name is. And, that sets the bar pretty high because that show is great. So, I was watching these pretty closely, both Murder on the Orient Express and the following sequels. But before we get into the nasty, let's start with the nice. The very beginning shows Poirot solving a case unrelated to the Murder on the Orient Express. I think it sets up the beginning pretty nice. It shows the audience that this guy's good at what he does, that he can find things that almost nobody else can, and can do it pretty quickly. So I think that, we're off to a strong start. It shows that he is verging on supernatural ability to detect the methods of criminal activity. Now, this partially star-studded cast serves their purpose and performs well enough within each of their roles. Nothing exceptional or mind-blowing, in my opinion, but each character was different enough, and the actors and actresses operated well within their roles, I thought. Nothing crazy, nothing stand out, but, they did their job. They did their job. So no complaints there. Of the cast, however, there is a shining star, and that is my man, Book, dude. This guy is easily the best thing to come out of any of these movies by, I'd say, a fair margin. He's like the basic opposite of what Poirot stands for, and yet they still have this odd dynamic between them and some kind of bond where they respect each other, they don't judge each other, and they just let each other go, and they can operate together. And even throughout the movie, Book kind of, because in the beginning it's proven that he was elsewhere when the murder took place, and so he's kind of off the hook. Spoiler, who gives a shit? And so they get to kind of run the case together. Obviously, Book doesn't do a whole lot. He's not a detective, nor is he a genius. But, he hangs out there. He does some stuff. The train itself was, I thought, a great set piece. It was nice enough. It kind of set the mood of wealth and opulence, and I enjoyed every single car was classy and elegant and served its own purpose. The bar car and the lounge car, they're all eating dinner and everything is served very elegantly. Even the wall sconces, pretty nice. Sucker for wall sconces. And of course, it taking place on the train, you get some pretty cool shots that I think that the old Kenny took advantage of here. Some nice tracking shots through the train windows as characters are moving around, and then there was also some pretty cool overhead shots that we got to see. It kind of shook things up. One thing that I will say is I don't think they played enough into the claustrophobia. Like, obviously on a train, all those people packed in together, you would feel this tightness, and I feel like that was kind of absent, or at least could have been accentuated more. It could have been with some tricks of the camera presented a little bit better to where we feel cooped up with the cast. My opinion, whatever. Small gripe. But let's get into the nasty. Just to get it out of the way, this guy's mustache is ridiculous. I'm not sure where Kenneth Branagh got the idea for this giant mustache. But especially, like I said, I was a fan of the 90s show, and his mustache is nothing like that. And even going through all of the incarnations of Poirot, there's nobody that has this huge, like, it stretches nearly ear to ear, and it's just a bit wild. And kind of, I guess it didn't really take my focus away from what was happening, but it was certainly a bit over the top. And if it wasn't adding anything, I don't see a reason for why it was added. I don't really get that. Maybe he just wanted to have an iconic symbol of his Poirot series that kind of was separated from everything else that's been done. I'm not sure. I haven't read the novels. Maybe it's described as that big in there, but I don't think so. But anywho, The writing in this movie overall just seemed incredibly subpar. In fact, I think that that's why none of the characters really stood out to me. Like I said, the actors and actresses fulfilled their roles. They did a good enough job, provided what they were given, and I just don't think they were given very much. It's just not only the dialogue doesn't really seem to flow very well, and then in light of the conclusion of the mystery, upon a second watch through, it works even less. And I think that that's definitely a fault of the writing. And even, the pacing of the story and the payoff, that just doesn't really work for me. I don't hate everything about this movie, but I will say that anything that was a plus coming from the director's side, or just how the shooting was, how cameras were organized well, I think that the setting was fine and everything looked nice. But just as far as the actual experience of the story, I think it was lacking, and that just must be coming from the writer's side. I can't, and maybe old Kenny had some stuff to do with that too, but not great, not great. And I think that the movie definitely suffered. And I think that this movie could have been very good, and if it were written better by perhaps a more competent writer, although I'm pretty sure I looked into this guy's work history and he's done some pretty nice things that I enjoyed in the past, so I'm not really sure what happened here. But yeah, point being, not the greatest. All right, and speaking of the conclusion here, I won't spoil anything, but I haven't read the novel. I'm assuming that the events unfold the same way, maybe just told a little better, but it's just, I didn't get it. I thought it was ridiculous. I thought it was completely unrealistic. And given that it was so unrealistic, it just immediately ejected me from the movie. Like, I was decently bought in, and then we get to the end, and I'm like, okay, here's the payoff. Let's see, what I get for watching through this whole thing. And I was like, what the hell, man? Like, it wasn't even in any way satisfying. I just thought it was whack. And then the explanation for how everything happened was also whack. And yeah, disappointing. I'll say that. Now, despite the clunky writing and the somewhat dog shit ending, I actually did enjoy this movie. I think that Kenneth Branagh definitely got close, and I think that there was probably a passion for Poirot that he possessed. Gotcha. But it just didn't come through. It just didn't quite make it to where I think that it was trying to go. I think that he had a lot of good things going for him as Poirot. I think that he probably understood the character, but maybe just tried to get his own spin on it. And that might be what suffered here, is what he tried to take something and then spin it his way, and it just didn't quite work the way he wanted it to. I don't think that he was a bad Poirot. I think that he kind of highlighted some eccentricities that didn't really make sense to me. Like the egg thing, yeah, I guess. Just based on my pure viewing experience of this, juxtaposed against what I have seen, which is like every episode of the TV show. I don't know, he's not that weird. But in this movie, he's presented as like very odd. Which is okay. But he gets like the sweet old man side down, which I think is important for this character. It kind of gives him this just presence of good in the world. And I think that's kind of what Poirot is all about, and he very nearly nails it. I'm not sure how much total rewatchability this movie has, especially since I watched it a second time and already the pleasure from viewing dropped significantly. Things just don't quite gel once you've already known what is going to happen. And that's kind of like the trademark of a really good mystery, is that you can watch it over and over again. Fucking Knives Out, dude, I've seen like 15 times or more, and I enjoy it every single time. Not a perfect mystery. I know some people have some notes about it, but I genuinely enjoyed it enough to watch it many times through. And I thought the payoff was nice. So, to wrap this up, I would put this Murder on the Orient Express right next to Speed Racer in category, where great movie, no. But did I enjoy it? Yes. Will I watch it in the future? Perhaps not as many times as I've seen Speed Racer. But yeah, I'll probably give it another watch through at some point. It's decent enough. It's entertaining, but we'll see. Like I said, after that second watch through, I was like, nah, maybe. But anywho, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And that's all I got. Nick out.